good speech last week on life and death. That made me think, and I should reconsider. Actually, we'll talk about life insurance. But after the last week's speech, Paris's, I started thinking, what is it that I'd like to have on my tombstone? And actually, I came up with only 2 words that I'd like to have it there, which says, history matters. History matters. But because I think it's the most important things in life. And you know, my passion about birth order and family programming are blind spots that connected to our individual history that I talked about. But for me, this topic, though it's fascinating, is kind of a prelude, I would say, warming up to a more serious, I think sometimes more dramatic topic of the blind spots that related to our cultural programming and the history that we have. And I think that that lack of knowledge of our history that create blind spots and problems in our present reality. So initially, a week ago, I called this speech, History Matters, Waving the Confederate Flag. After the events of the last week, now I should probably call it History Matters, Not Waving the Confederate Flag. Symbols are important, but I think it's more important is what's happening in our minds and souls. And I really like the governor of South Carolina, who was very instrumental and helpful actually in removing the flag. She said in her interview, these grounds are a place that everybody should feel a part of. What I realize now more than ever is people were driving by and felt hurt and pain. No one should feel pain. So very good words, I think very good thoughts, very good actions that help to heal the wounds and to bring our American family together. Though honestly, you know, I still had the question in my head. The question was, what took you so long? I mean, you grew up in the South, didn't you know? And did she wanted to know? Do you want to know? Did anybody help you to know? But then I thought, well, who I am to judge? We all have our blind spots. I remember in the 80s, I went to, in the Soviet Union, I went to Lithuania, and very soon realized that though I look like Lithuanian, so people, they start speaking Lithuanian with me first. As soon as they realize that I'm Russian, the smile goes away from their face immediately. And they didn't treat me as well. And I thought, like, what's wrong with you guys? You know, what's happening here? So I talked to my Lithuanian colleague and I said, tell me, explain it to me. He said, well, do you really want to know? I said, yeah, sure, tell me. Well, you're Russian and you're occupant. I'm like, what are you talking about? That was 40 years ago, 40 years ago. And, you know, we help you guys out to get rid of your capitalists here. Now, what I realized that there was a blind spot on my part. There is some history that I learned about the same events that he learned is very different. And I think that what he wants me to know is to acknowledge, and not only in my head what happened, but also in my heart. And I think one of the powerful experiences that I had in my life when I was 14 years old, I went to the Auschwitz. It's a concentration camp in Poland. And when you go through these thousands of windows of thousands and thousands of baby shoes, of glasses, thousands of golden crowns that were taken out of people's mouths before they got gassed and burned. That was a very horrific experience that I think that made me think certain way, and I would never argue about that symbol of a Nazi flag, for example. And I don't know if you know what Americans actually did in Germany after World War II. I have a friend from Bavaria, and she said that, you know, there was a hunger and economical difficulties in the country, and she was a little girl. And, you know, in order to get the food from Americans, she said they made it mandatory to go to the cinema and watch the movie. It was a movie about concentration camp. So you go to the movie, watch this horror movie about what your people did to other human beings, and then get the food. So watch the movie, get the food. Watch the movie, get the food. And I think that Americans did a great job helping Germans to face who they were, but also to become a strong nation as they are now. But of course, it's more easy, I think, that to help others than to help ourselves. And I've been here 25 years. I never thought about myself as a white man before I came here. And, but what I observed is a huge divide that I think that exists racially here, on the racial, that, and there is a divide that lacks of knowledge of history and acknowledgement what happened. And what can be done about this? And I think that, of course, it's very important to have open community dialogues, have books and movies. But with my, what I call Russian kind of dictatorial background, I would do what Americans did in Germany. I would, in every plantation in the South, where people were beaten, raped, killed, I would create a museum, museums of slavery. And I would make it mandatory. So each grade in every school, once a year, mandatory, they have to go through this experience. And I think that if it's done right, it will help us to solve tensions and issues that we have here, that to decrease discrimination and hopefully decrease deaths that happened. In New York City, one of my favorite cathedrals is St. Patrick's. And those of you who were there maybe remember there was a message that says, sometimes it takes a death to bring a family together. So the question I have, but do we have to? Does it have to be? Thank you.